So much football, not enough wrestling. Well, let's get back to that. Retribution segments were met with laughter backstage. Retribution was actually an angle that was identically similar to the Nexus. The difference was that the Nexus was actually good, and since Retribution had started, I haven't cared about it whatsoever. NXT reportedly had another COVID outbreak as people are being lax with their masks, which I'm sure is happening because the longer the pandemic goes, the less people are caring about the rules that's established. Kofi Kingston has been written off television, or has not been on television due to injury. We're going to talk about that whole situation. Renee Young reveals the real reason why she left WWE. And last but not least, Miro, formerly known as Rusev, makes his AEW debut last week. And it becomes another wrestler, which I don't understand why. Every wrestler, we understand you could have frustrations. Why, when you go to a new promotion, do you have to blast the one you were just in? All of this wrestling news right here. Call it tea of the day if you want to. Hit the like button, subscribe, go nowhere. First, with all of this, obviously, we know that WWE has been hit by COVID, as has the entire world prior to, during the 2020 year. And it caused them to make a lot of audibles. A lot of people were saying WrestleMania, there's no way it was going to go on. We don't know what was going to happen with WrestleMania. And then it did go on. It went on without fans. There were COVID outbreaks. COVID has put a huge dent in what has been a very poor, eventful, and unfortunate 2020 all over. This is not news. This is nothing new. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the COVID outbreak. Before we get to, we'll probably talk about Rusev or Miro next. This is from Sportskeeda. It says WWE NXT reportedly affected by another COVID-19 outbreak. For those of you that don't know, there was an outbreak at some point, was it a month and a half or so ago? Superstars were testing positive all over, and of course WWE was keeping it hush. WWE's third brand is reportedly experiencing an outbreak of the coronavirus. NXT is undergoing a serious outbreak with positive tests coming back as recent as this weekend. WWE has had issues with COVID-19 since the pandemic. Many superstars and on-screen personalities struggled with it, including Kayla Braxton, AJ Styles, and Renee, who obviously is no longer with the company. When WWE decided to put superstars around the ring to liven up their shows, talent were also seen wearing masks on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. The Raw and SmackDown have moved on to the Thunderdome. NXT still uses the PC crowd. Not everybody has to use the Thunderdome. It's been a while since WWE experienced an outbreak. However, it looks like the Black and Gold brand has been dealing with it for several weeks now. Reported by John Alba today, it looks like there were a COVID-19 outbreak. Sources reported by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful stating that several PC classes were canceled. There was a COVID-19 outbreak with NXT. Sources indicate it may have a decent effect on creative. And of course, they're going to say that because of an outbreak, they can't write television. Okay. It can alter your plans, but WWE hasn't been able to write compelling television for well over 5 years. Actually, 5 years before this pandemic actually even was existing. So I don't believe in that. The outbreak has taken place over the last few weeks and believe that a coach has accidentally spread it. Further stated the company had gone a little relaxed regarding their mask regulations, which I can absolutely believe. You go anywhere out in public and you just see people not wearing their masks. I'll be honest, I wear my mask. I don't necessarily wear it completely right. It doesn't always cover my nose. When I'm indoors, I try to always follow those obligations. Obviously, in the beginning, everybody was panicking. I wasn't even leaving my house because I had no idea what the hell was going on. And then we have this situation. People are probably wearing the mask down. People are in the locker room or in the back. Let me just take the mask off. And that's what I think a lot of governors and different people fear, is that people are going to get too laxed with the protocols that are set in place for the coronavirus, that it's going to result in something like this. What are you going to do? As far as we know, somebody accidentally spread it. We don't know what this means for NXT. We know which, if any, NXT superstars have contracted it. We'll have to wait and see what changes. Alba said the WWE has received positive tests as recent as this weekend, which doesn't bode well, and it means the company has yet to get the situation under control. So obviously they're going to have to keep testing NXT particularly. It seems like it's just NXT exclusive, which is obviously not good, but it's good that it's just NXT and it's not anywhere else. They're going to have to get that under control, because the last thing they want is an outbreak. Next thing you know, somebody from NXT is hanging out with somebody on Raw. Next thing you know, it's on Raw, SmackDown, top stars get it. It's a scary thing. Obviously, we have the protocol set in place, and a lot of places are doing a lot better, some not so much. Florida obviously has been terrible throughout the whole thing. They haven't really seemed to follow rules, so that's where we kind of lie on to something like this. But me personally, you control what you can, and everything else is pretty much out of your control. And, it's going to happen with, more things opening up, indoor dining at partial capacity. Things are going to start happening. You're going to see an increase in tests, but as long as it's not a massive increase, if you go from 200 cases to 500 as opposed to 200, if you start getting to a point where you're getting over 1,000 plus cases a day, things are going to have to be shut down again. COVID has ruined the whole year. It really has. 2020 it's canceled from a whole. I think COVID has affected every person in the United States at some point, whether they were careless about it or not. Things they wanted to do that they weren't able to do because of it. Hopefully WWE or NXT gets this situation out of control and we don't see an increase of more positive tests going forward. Now, I don't have a article about this, but we're going to talk about Miro joining AEW. Now, Miro was formerly known as Rusev of WWE. Obviously, Rusev has had a very turbulent history in WWE. When he first came on WWE, and I will always say this, when Rusev first came on WWE and he was this monster guy, he was fantastic. His feuds with John Cena were great. And I think, in all honesty, after he lost his first match, was at Mania 31 against John Cena, after that day, Rusev, his stock plummeted. They had nothing for him. They were using him jokingly. They were not using him at all. Then Rusev Day happened, and he got over. Well, we know how it goes, or at least sometimes how it goes with professional wrestling. When you get over on your own, that doesn't always end well. They say that superstars, how dare they get over on their own? And after that, it was nothing. Rusev voiced his frustration. He was never one to shy away from what he thought or what he felt. And it eventually resulted in his release from WWE during the pandemic. He was one of the victims of the budget cuts of the coronavirus pandemic earlier in the year. And within a couple months after being cut, he found his way onto AEW. And he took no time wasting his shots on WWE. We know that Miro, formerly known as Rusev, was a Twitch streamer like other wrestlers. And WWE has said that wrestlers cannot Twitch stream. I don't know exactly what the full story behind that was, but they were not allowed to Twitch stream and use their personas and gimmicks on Twitch, which Twitch was an alternate source of income. So that just shows how WWE is very controlling of the people they have employed, which, again, it's a job and it's employment, but at the same time, it's excessive. We don't work for WWE, but we know the people that do, and they tell us these kinds of stories. Why? But why? My question is, why does every wrestler that leave WWE have to blast them the second they get the opportunity? Is it just some gratification that they can say what they want and they're no longer employed by them? I feel like it's one of those things where they're held hostage by a large check, and they can finally do what they and say what they want to do because they have the power. He said, you can take that brass ring and shove it up your ass. Obviously, the brass ring is what Vince McMahon used to call wrestlers reaching for an imaginary brass ring and being the next big guy. And he said that the brass ring didn't exist. It doesn't seem like it exists. And shove it up your ass. Because Rusev had a lot of talent. WWE didn't know what to do with him after his feud with John Cena. And he was another victim of WWE dropping the ball on a very talented superstar. So I don't blame him whatsoever for feeling how he feels. I just don't understand why every wrestler has to come out and blast WWE the second they get the chance. Podcast, whatever it is. Eric Young did the same thing. He didn't really, I don't know if he blasted the WWE as much as Rusev did or Miro did. But Miro's going to be great. He looked phenomenal coming into AEW. I'm not going to tell him what to do or how to feel. Certainly in a situation like that, he looked great. I honest to God can sit here and tell you that Miro looked great in AEW, and I think he'll be fantastic. My only thing is, why does every superstar have to blast the company after they leave? It doesn't make them look any bigger whatsoever. If they're on a podcast and somebody interviews them and they ask them, and he also mentioned that he can follow him on Twitch, which is clearly a shot at WWE. He came out on AEW as Kip Sabian's best man. Obviously surprised. Nobody saw it coming. And that's that. So from this point forward, they have the situation where Well, WWE has no situation. That's really it. That's really all there is to it. Miro should be interesting in AEW. Hopefully they do him right. I can't imagine them doing him wrong. But I also fear that AEW is going to get to a point where they have an overcrowd of talent where it's someone that WWE didn't do right or had a bad experience with just goes to because it's one of the alternate wrestling places that gets a lot of exposure. And that's one of the things that I worry about. But that's that. Miro is on AEW. Kofi Kingston reportedly had an injury. Well, not so quite. Kofi Kingston is one of the people that has had a brief hiatus at some point during this pandemic in WWE. Now, WWE reportedly said this, which I'm not sure I agree with 100%. WWE has reportedly told its talents that they can take some time off during the pandemic. They just have to inform the company about their desire to take a break, and the creative team can then come up with a way to write them off of TV. Daniel Bryan has been off of TV, owing to the same reason. He just had a new kid a couple months ago, I believe. Kevin Owens also took a short hiatus. Obviously, he's back now. Kofi Kingston has also been given a much-needed break from WWE TV to spend time with his family. If this is the truth behind it, then great. Kofi Kingston is absolutely fine. He has just been given 6 weeks off to take a quarantine period, go and see his family, take a quarantine period, and then come back to work. That's another thing. I don't know if WWE has a bubble-like setting, sort of, where the wrestlers don't see their family. And now this is where I'm going to actually give WWE some credit. If this is the case where WWE is having some of the wrestlers see their family, the WWE have mentioned to every member right here and every talent that they have in the locker room that they have said to them, if you want to opt out of working, if you want to go and spend time with your family, just tell us. That's where Daniel Bryan is at for the moment. That's where Kevin Owens was for a couple of weeks. If you want to spend some time away, come to us. We will find a way to write you all out. All you have to ask is you give us the time to do that in a way that makes logical sense. That is what happened with Kofi Kingston, and I'm sure he'll be very happy to be Big E's buddy when he comes back. I think that is one of those rules that applies to everybody. It's like one of those things where it's like, if you want to go do something, do it, and then I'm going to be mad. I don't think WWE's mad. If this is the case, which I believe it is, great. It's great that they do that, and it's great that WWE gives the wrestlers this time to see their family. I know that Roman Reigns was in a bit of a different situation where he was... now it's weird because he backed out the week of WrestleMania from the match with Goldberg for the Universal title. And it put WWE in a very difficult situation. I don't think they were mad at Roman Reigns for what he did. I think that they were upset that he waited so long. The pandemic was already nearly a month in full swing, and then he just says he needs to back out. Maybe it's because the cases were exploding, and coincidentally, Roman Reigns has come to the decision that with his immune system and a lot of what we didn't know about COVID, that he was ready to make the decision to back out. That's one of the things I think is possible with a situation like that. A lot of guys we haven't seen. We haven't seen Daniel Bryan. We haven't seen some guys. Sami Zayn was stripped of his Intercontinental title. He was gone for months. He just came back a little while ago on SmackDown. We'll see him in action this Sunday at Clash Champions. Good for Kofi Kingston. And when he comes back, he comes back. That's great. Last article that we're going to talk about. Renee Young reveals the reason for her WWE departure. I actually liked Renee Young a lot. When she first got onto commentary, I did not like it whatsoever. She warmed up to me. And me personally, I think that Renee Young is just... she wants to be more of a backstage reporter, like a real, and I'm not saying that WWE reporters are not backstage reporters, but I feel like she wants to get into the sports realm, be kind of like a Fox Sports kind of thing. That's the vibe that I get from her. And her decision to leave WWE, from what we know, was not affected by Jon Moxley. I don't believe that she has any intent on going to AEW. I think that she genuinely just wants to be a reporter in a different branch. I think that she feels that her time in WWE kind of just ran its course, and she wants to go and explore and do different things. And, you know, this is one of those situations where she was great in WWE. She decided that she wanted to do something else, and WWE said, okay, you go and do something else. So not every departure from WWE is terrible, since a lot of people will sit and say, oh, all you do is run about that. They WWE, they do their own thing, okay? So they don't... Listen, if I can get this here to load, we're going to talk about Renee Young's departure. She was definitely fantastic as a backstage reporter. I can tell you that. What she was as a commentator was okay. I feel like she was very over the top when she was putting commentary at first, and I was not the big fan of that. Again, this article does not want to load. I am unprepared. I was smooth sailing throughout the whole show here. And now this article does not want to load, and it puts me in the situation of this. A blank face staring at a computer waiting for it to load. Okay, let's try something different. We're going to go to Google and see if Google can give me something better. I'll be honest, I'll miss Renee Young in WWE. I think a lot of us will. I think that we liked Renee Young a lot. Okay, so it's loading here. It says, Renee Young on why she's leaving WWE and future projects. So clearly she wants to stay in a somewhat of a similar branch. She reflected on her career and explained her reasons for leaving, as well as future projects she has in the pipeline. Renee made her final appearance during the night of SummerSlam kickoff show. In an open letter written by Monday Night Raw, Renee Young paid tribute to numerous colleagues as well as the universe. And I think that's it for me, you know. I thought everyone always wants details with the newsy type of things. Why are you leaving? Where are you going? And so on. The truth is, for now, I'm flying pretty details free. I have some ideas about what might come next, but at the moment, that's all they are, ideas. Maybe I'll find a new show, a new platform, podcast. I won't be happy unless I keep pushing boundaries, unless I keep moving forward. I used to always joke that WWE was a sort of entertainment boot camp, but now that that's over, I actually think there's some truth here. I've been at the corner of sports entertainment and live events for almost a decade. I've written a whole freaking cookbook in my spare time. I feel like I finally reached the stage where I cannot know what comes next, because I finally reached the stage where I can handle what comes next. I feel like Renee Young touched all her boundaries, and that's why as far as why I'm leaving, it's about as simple as it gets. It was time. 8 years doing anything is a while, but 8 years in a business like ours, it's a lifetime. And you only get so many lifetimes. So I'm going to try a few new things, give them a fair shot, and I hope they give me the same, and we'll see. That's really all it is. To my family, it's been real. Most importantly, I miss you already. I love you forever. Renee Young left WWE the right way. She had a great time. She wants to do other things. She wants to move on to bigger things. And, you know, it's hard to sit here and say what's bigger than WWE, but she just has a different mindset. She wants to try different things. And you know what? You only live once, so you can't blame her for that. Great on Renee Young. She will certainly be missed. And that is going to be a wrap for today's show. Figured we had to talk about some kind of wrestling at some point on this show. I appreciate everybody for always watching. We will have Clash of Champions predictions probably Friday. We'll do the full preview of the show. Football tomorrow, or well, not today. Tomorrow we will have NFL Week 3 preview, and that is a wrap. Everybody continue to stay safe.